Let's begin with a fact most people never face. Everyone manipulates. A child says, "I'm hungry," to skip homework. A salesperson says, "Only 2 left in stock," to trigger urgency. A partner says, "You're the only one who understands me," to boost loyalty. These are micro-manipulations, normal, part of social survival. But when manipulation becomes systematic, exploitative, and psychologically destructive, that's not social skill. That's control. And across psychology, power dynamics, and behavioral research, we've mapped these tactics. 12, to be exact. Each one is used in specific ways by narcissists, by cult leaders, by toxic bosses, by pathological liars. And each one follows a predictable pattern. 1. Target identification, finding vulnerability. 2. Entry strategy, gaining trust or access. 3. Establishment of influence, building emotional leverage. 4. Exploitation, extracting compliance, resources, or submission. 5. Isolation, cutting off alternatives. 6. Maintenance, preventing escape. This isn't theory. This is behavioral engineering. So, if you're ready to step inside the mind of the manipulator, not to become one, but to understand how they operate, then let's begin. 1. Love bombing, the accelerated attachment strategy. Love bombing isn't love. It's emotional saturation. Used by narcissists, cult recruiters, and predators. It's a technique designed to bypass normal bonding timelines and fast-track dependency. How it works. The manipulator floods the target with attention, praise, and affection. They mirror the target's values, dreams, speech patterns, creating instant intimacy. They declare soulmates, destiny, and future plans within days. Gifts, trips, poems, midnight calls, all signals of an unreal level of investment. Psychological mechanism. Triggers dopamine surges in the target's brain, similar to addictive highs. Bypasses rational filtering by appealing directly to emotional hunger for connection. Creates attachment asymmetry. The target feels deeply connected before knowing the manipulator's real character. Documented in Cult Indoctrination Processes. Zimbardo, 1997. Narcissistic Personality Disorder Dynamics. Milon, 1996. Romantic Scam Investigations. FBI, 2021. Post-love bombing shift. Once dependency is created, the manipulator withdraws the supply. The love vanishes. Silence, coldness, criticism. And now, the target will do anything to get back to how it was. This shift is deliberate. It transforms affection into control. Signature phrases. "You're the only one who's ever understood me. I've never loved anyone like this. We don't need anyone else." Love bombing is not passion. It's emotional hijacking. 2. Gaslighting, reality construction. Gaslighting isn't lying. It's reality engineering. The goal. Make the target doubt their own memory, perception, or sanity until they rely on the manipulator's version of events as the only valid one. How it works. The manipulator denies clear facts. That never happened. Reframes past conversations. "You're remembering it wrong." Intentionally. Labels the victim as unstable. "You're paranoid." "You're too emotional." "You need help." Introduces small contradictions. For example, moving keys. Then saying, "You're always losing things." Psychological mechanism. Exploits the human need for cognitive consistency. Generates chronic self-doubt. Leads to perceptual dependence. The victim checks with the manipulator to confirm reality. Documented in Abusive Relationships, Stern, 2007. Authoritarian Leadership Dynamics. Lifton, 1989. Family Systems with Pathological Enmeshment. Advanced Gaslighting Tactics. Memory Erosion. You always misinterpret things. False Consensus. Everyone agrees you're overreacting. Victim Reversal. You're the one gaslighting me by refusing to accept the truth. Signature phrases. You're imagining things. That didn't happen the way you say. You're going to make me the bad guy again? Gaslighting doesn't require charisma. It only requires consistency. and the power to isolate the victim from other reference points. Once the target trusts nothing but the manipulator's word, they've won. 3. Silent treatment, punishment through absence. The silent treatment is not silence. It's emotional terrorism. Unlike healthy space-taking, this technique is used to punish, control, induce anxiety, force submission. How it works. The manipulator cuts off all communication after a disagreement or boundary setting, refuses to acknowledge texts, calls, or verbal attempts to engage, may stay physical. Y present baractas if the target is invisible. Breaks only when the target apologizes, pleads, or submits. Psychological mechanism. Activates attachment anxiety. Bowlby's theory. Triggers fear of abandonment, especially in securely attached individuals. Forces the target into emotional pursuer mode while the manipulator remains the distant, unreachable prize. Documented in Emotionally Focused Couples, Therapy Models, Johnson, 1985. Bullying in Workplace Hierarchies, Lehman, 1996. Parental Emotional Abuse Patterns, Tactical Patterns. Timing. Begins the moment the target asserts independence. Duration. Long enough to create panic, short enough to offer relief. Restart. Often with a smirk, sarcasm, or, "So what's your problem now?" Signature behaviors. Looking through the target, continuing to text others while ignoring the victim. Acting surprised when confronted. "I didn't realize you cared." The silent treatment doesn't silence the manipulator. It silences the victim. 4. Guilt tripping, exploiting conscience. Guilt is one of the most controllable human emotions, and manipulators know it. Guilt tripping uses moral sensitivity as a weapon, making the target feel responsible for the manipulator's emotional state, even when they've done nothing wrong. How it works. The manipulator frames their suffering as the target's fault, highlights their own sacrifices. "After all I've done," uses family, duty, or love as leverage. "A real son would help. If you loved me," withdraws affection until compliance. Psychological mechanism. Activates empathic distress guilt without rational justification. Links self-worth to compliance. Creates obligation cycles where saying no feels like betrayal. Documented in Parental Emotional Enmeshment, Karpman, 1968. Codependency Patterns, Melody, 1989. Religious Cult Dynamics, Langone, 1993. Types of guilt tripping. Sacrificial guilt. "I've given up everything for you." A nose of Kylus. "And everyone to certain times and that stakes of goaded." Abandonment guilt. "You're leaving me alone again?" Comparison guilt. "Your sister would have helped." Moral guilt. "That's not how we treat family." Signature phrases. "I guess I'm just not important to you." "Fine, do what you want. See how I feel. I don't know how I'll manage without you." Guilt trippers don't demand. They induce shame and let the target come to them. 5. Negging. Undermining through backhanded compliments. Negging is emotional sandpaper. A blend of insult and flirtation. It's designed to create insecurity so the target will seek approval from the manipulator to feel worthy. How it works. The manipulator delivers a compliment with a hidden barb. "You're cute for someone so quiet." "You're smarter than you look." "You've got potential if you worked on your confidence." Repeats it gently over time. Watches as the target adjusts behavior, appearance, or speech to win validation. Psychological mechanism. Triggers, self-monitoring. The target begins to observe themselves through the manipulator's eyes. Exploits imposter syndrome. Builds dependency on the manipulator's opinion. Documented in Pickup Artist Communities, Stray, 2005. Narcissistic grooming patterns. Workplace gaslighting by superiors. Vulnerable targets. High achievers with latent insecurity. People in transition, new job, post-breakup. Those with a history of conditional approval. Signature phrases. "You're actually really funny when you're not overthinking." "You'd be so much prettier if you smiled more." Program de tesis. With creep auto. "I like how you dress, reminds me of my sister." Negging isn't always harsh. Sometimes, It's a whisper, and that's when it's most effective. 6. Triangulation, controlling through third parties. Triangulation is power through indirect competition. Instead of confronting the target directly, the manipulator introduces a third person, real or imagined, to create jealousy, insecurity, or rivalry. How it works. The manipulator mentions others frequently. My ex never had a problem with this. My friend Sarah said you seem distant lately. Everyone at work thinks you're lazy, may flirt with others and mention it. Lisa thinks I should just move on. Uses authority figures. The boss said you're on thin ice. Psychological mechanism. Triggers mate. Retention anxiety. Bus. 2000. Activates social comparison. Makes the target compete for affection or approval. Documented in Romantic Narcissism, Campbell and Foster, 2002. Hierarchical bullying, school, work, military. Cult dynamics, us versus them framing. Tactical variance. False triangulation. The third party doesn't exist. Competitive triangulation. Explicit comparison. She's so much easier to be with. Victim triangulation. Everyone feels bad for me because of how you treat me. Signature behaviors. Avoiding direct confrontation. Using others' names to pressure compliance. Smirking when the target shows jealousy. Triangulation turns intimacy into a performance. And the audience? Only the manipulator. 7. Flying monkeys, proxy enforcers. The manipulator doesn't fight their battles. They send messengers, flying monkeys. The key is plausible deniability. The manipulator never says, go confront them. Instead, they confide. I don't want to make things worse, but they've been so cold lately. I'd never ask you to get involved. It's just been so hard. I don't want drama, but others have noticed too. This activates protective instincts in third parties. They step in to help, unaware they're being used as emotional shock troops. The target defends against multiple fronts while the manipulator remains innocent. Psychological mechanism. Exploits bystander empathy. Triggers moral enforcement bias. Creates social surveillance, making the victim feel watched, judged, trapped. Documented in Narcissistic Personality Disorder, Ronningstam, 2005. Family systems with enmeshed triangulation. Bowen, 1978. Workplace and political smear campaigns. Tactical variants. Blind monkey, unaware, third party. Knowing monkey, loyal ally who attacks publicly. Sacrificial monkey, later thrown under the bus. Reverse monkey, a former victim sent back to lure others. Signature behaviors. I didn't say anything when confronted. Third parties appear with accusations. See? Even they think you're overreacting. Flying monkeys don't enforce control, they normalize isolation. That's when escape becomes impossible. Projecting. Psychological mirroring. Projection is internal transference. The manipulator takes their own unacceptable traits, jealousy, dishonesty, rage, and attributes them to the target. How it works. The cheater says, you're the one looking at other people. The liar says, you're always hiding things. The abuser says, you're the aggressive one. I'm just defending myself. The target spends energy proving they're not that, while the manipulator escapes accountability. Psychological mechanism. Rooted in defense psychology, Freud. Uses cognitive dissonance. Creates self-policing. Documented in Psychological defense mechanisms. Trauma bonding cycles. Dutton and Painter, 1981. High conflict divorce cases. Baker, 2010. Advanced tactics. Preemptive projection. Don't even think about cheating. I'll know. Behavioral contagion. Push target to act it out, then condemn them. Martyr projection. I've never mistreated you, but you keep acting like I have. Signature phrases. You're accusing me of what you're doing. You're so obsessed with lying, maybe it's because you do it so much. I would never treat you that way, you must be projecting. Projection steals the narrative so completely that the victim forgets what's real. 9. DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Coined by psychologist Jennifer Freyd, DARVO is the ultimate evasion system. When confronted, the manipulator. 1. Deny the behavior. 2. Attack the accuser. 3. Reverse roles. Now they're the victim. Scenario. You promised to be home at 8. It's 11. You broke your word. DARVO response. 1. Deny. I never said that. 2. Attack. You're always monitoring me like I'm a criminal. 3. Reverse. I can't believe you're making me feel guilty for something I didn't even do. After all I do for you, now you're apologizing. Psychological mechanism. Uses moral superiority framing. Attacks the right to question, not the act. Exploits the target's desire for fairness. Documented in Institutional Abuse Cover-Ups. Frayed, 1997. Domestic Violence. Political Scandals. Tactical Variants. Soft DARVO. Tears. Fragility. Group DARVO. Entire family adopts the script. Preemptive DARVO. Don't even think about blaming me. Signature effect. The target feels irrational, cruel, abusive for stating a fact. DARVO doesn't defend the action. It destroys the challenger. 10. Coercion. Invisible threats. Coercion is calculated implication. The manipulator doesn't say, do it or I'll hurt you. They say, you know what happens when you disappoint me. Let's not go back to how things were before. I'd hate for others to find out what you did. The threat is unstated, but deeply understood. How it works. Establishes past consequences. Financial control. This household runs because of me. Emotional blackmail. If you leave, I'll fall apart. Implying self-harm. I don't know if I could go on. Psychological mechanism. Triggers anticipatory anxiety. Creates learned helplessness. Seligman, 1975, bypasses rational decision-making. Documented in Intimate Partner Violence, Walker, 1979. Human trafficking, grooming, authoritarian parenting, tactical forms, passive coercion, silence, coldness, conditional affection. I'll be happy when you do X. This is not so stated, it's more threes, to thus. The video as well, fins of the follows now come. Resource control, money, phone, transport, future faking. When you change, we can finally, with shifting goals. Signature effect. The target complies not from willingness, but fear. No direct threats, so nothing happened. Coercion doesn't require locks, only the belief that escape will cost too much. 11. Smear campaigning, preemptive reputation destruction. Before the target speaks, the manipulator destroys their credibility. It's not rumors, it's orchestrated misinformation. How it works. The manipulator tells others. They're unstable. They lie constantly. Uses selective truth. They once forgot to pay a bill, they're irresponsible. Recruits allies. I just don't want you to get hurt like I did. Shares evidence, misinterpreted screenshots, phrases, psychological mechanism. Exploits cognitive anchoring, first story sticks. Uses confirmation bias, every action seen as proof. Prevents support networks. Documented in Narcissistic Abuse at Work, Body, 2011. Divorce and custody battles. Corporate sabotage. Tactical phases. Preemptive smear. They're intense. Be careful. Reactive smear. They're finally showing their true colors. Post-escape smear. They abandoned me and everyone who cared. Signature result. When the target speaks, no one believes them. They're seen as crazy, jealous, or the problem. The smear ensures the manipulator wins the narrative even when they lose control. 12. Hoovering, the re-engagement pull. When the target escapes, the manipulator returns. With love, this is hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner. It's about sucking the target back in. How it works. After separation, returns with apologies, promises of change, gifts. I've been in therapy. Uses crises. I'm not doing well. Triggers nostalgia, guilt, or hope. Psychological mechanism. Exploits intermittent reinforcement. Skinner, 1950. Reactivates dopamine pathways. Preys on empathy and compassion. Documented in Narcissistic and borderline cycles. Black, 2009. Addiction relapse patterns. Cult re-recruitment. Tactical forms. Grand Hoover. Big gestures. Trips. Declarations. Crisis Hoover. I can't live without you. Proxy Hoover. Sending friends. They just want to talk. Digital Hoover. Accidental likes. Shared songs. Why it works. The brain remembers the love more than the pain, and the manipulator knows it. They don't need to win forever. Just once, and the cycle restarts. Let's pause. You've just heard 12 manipulation tactics not as abstract ideas, but as operational tools. Each one is used by narcissists, psychopaths, toxic partners, cult leaders, corrupt executives, authoritarian parents, and each one shares a logic. Exploit human nature to gain control. These aren't personality flaws. They are strategies, and strategy can be studied, mapped, neutralized. You don't need to become paranoid, but you do need to see clearly, because once you recognize the pattern, the power shifts. You are no longer the target. You are the observer, and that is the first step to freedom. This is the end of the manipulator's playbook, not a guide to harm, but a map of the terrain. Stay sharp, stay aware, and remember, seeing the game means you're no longer playing by their rules.